Hi, everyone. What follows is a conversation I had earlier today with Kevin Breslin, the dynamic director of the movie Living for 32. Living for 32 is one of a select number of documentaries that's being considered to be nominees for the Oscar for Best Documentary Film for 2010 at the 83rd Annual Academy Awards. We'll find out if they made the nominations list on January 25th at 5:30 in the morning when the Academy holds a special meeting that will be televised. But our conversation, that of Kevin and myself, spanned 40 minutes of time. And really, we discussed all of the kaleidoscope of issues that came to create that turn of events that led to the Virginia Tech Massacre. And also the mental health of what Colin Goddard describes as the shooter. We spent a lot of time talking about Colin himself, who has been on a campaign to make sure our current set of gun control laws are followed, and also to make sure that people who want guns have background checks done. Now, what's surprising to me is that he doesn't call for just an outright ban of guns, but we do get into that conversation in the interview. It was done by Skype, and so there are points where there is a delay in what Kevin says or his image, but the vast majority of the video doesn't have that issue. I hope you enjoy it, and I look forward to your feedback. I made it in two parts, actually three parts, because of its length. Here we go.
Anytime.
Cool. Excellent. Excellent. Excellent.
Hey, pleasure Kevin, to meet you, my friend.
Great to meet you as well. Yeah, definitely. Hey, first of all, tell my viewers how you got involved with this project.
My name is Kevin Breslin. Maria Cuomo Cole was part of the Brady organization, and she had gone to a meeting, and she said she witnessed a very interesting young man named Colin Goddard. I didn't know who he was, actually. She said he was a survivor at Virginia Tech. He was shot there, and she said she wanted a PSA filmed. I work in television commercials and make other small documentaries in New York, but primarily TV commercials. She said, could I do it? I said, certainly, it interested me. So we went and we filmed Colin, and he started talking about the Brady organization and that you can't, and handgun control, something I didn't know even that much about. My job was to film them, get them a reliable story. As I listened, I said, oh, this is a unique story. And right in my gut, I'm going to make a documentary with this guy. So as soon as we were done filming the commercials, I knew I had my two 30-second cuts, which I was hired to do. I said, hey, geez, I'd love to talk to you some more. I wrote him some letters. We talked. We conferred. He trusted me. The trust was the essential thing. And we moved forward. When someone is shot 4 or 5 times, they don't rush into things after that in life. I hadn't seen a young man this poised, relaxed, and gentle, however, circumspect. So he actually said, well, I'd be interested in that, but what's your angle, Kevin? I said, just tell us your story, that's all. He made it clear he's not an actor. He didn't want to be juiced. He didn't want to see any nonsensical tears, trying to goad him into more than he would give.
Right.
So as a director, I had to be very, very careful. He's not an actor holding a gun, waving a gun in a shoot 'em up. He's a guy that had 4 bullets. He still has 4 bullets in him. So when he looks in the eyes and says something to you, that's exactly what he means. And I had to do my homework. I had to know everything about him, what happened, how he thought, why he thought, where he was, a lot of the who, what, when, why, and where, basic tenets of journalism. And take that and yet make it a compelling story without, and I use the term as a director, juicing them. Of course, good camera angles and all of that, but no questions, no film.
Did you find that, well, first of all, do you remember where you were when the Virginia Tech Massacre happened?
Looking back, I know it was got late in the day here in New York. Didn't we midday or something, where I broke in at 11 o'clock? I was so
Maybe there may be picking up a little slower there. Hmm.
There.
Cool.
Oh, I I was somewhere in New York. Of course, like anybody, I go to CNN at that time.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember observing it thinking, a college campus, more Columbine, more insanity, what's going on? And then, as it progression, and they showed you the diabolical stuff about Cho,
Right.
you started watching that with the kid with the guns like this, and it reeked of insanity and tragedy to me, and ugliness.
Mm-hmm.
And I think subconsciously, I said, I wonder how these loonies get all these guns. You know, we come from a city where our mayor Bloomberg has been so vigilant against guns in the city that you lost me, right?
Yeah, I lost you.
Mayor Bloomberg in New York has really traced, where the guns come from,
right,
and been very, very adamant about being certain that guns don't come into this city,
mm-hmm.
and if they come in, they're getting out of here or you're being prosecuted.
Right.
And so, to answer your question, I watched it on the TV, and it stuck with me, and I never thought about it again except a horror of it all.
What's it like? What's Colin like as a person? Is he? Do you sense? How do I ask this question? Do you sense that he's damaged from this in some way? I mean, obviously, a person would be, and sometimes in a positive way. I don't mean that as a pejorative, But
yeah.
How did you find you had to walk on eggshells? What's he like as a person?
It's a very good question. Colin as a person is unique. He's 24. He was shot when he was 21. He walks around with 5 holes in him. He was shot with hollow point bullets. When you're shot with a hollow point bullet, I don't know if everyone really knows, it becomes like a shattered star of metal. And it clings to parts of your body and stays in you. It's meant not to come out the other side and hurt someone else.
Wow.
So Colin walks around with pain in his body at such a young age. He's a remarkably handsome guy. He's almost like a young Clint Eastwood. Very handsome, very poised, very sensible.
Has
charming.
Mm-hmm.
He's not going to let anyone manipulate him. And for such a young age, it's almost unique. It's a little uncanny. Now, I don't know if he's a very smart guy, but I think it's beyond just smarts now. I think that he's lived through a horror, that he's lived through a massacre.
Mm-hmm. Right.
He was a hero in that room, He grabbed the phone, he started calling 911 as Cho was shooting everybody, and he was already wounded, so he tried to fake being dead, and he passed the gun to another girl, the phone to another girl, and he told, the 911 was on the line, because Colin kept telling them where they were on the phone, but when Colin realized he might get caught with the phone, he passed it to another girl on the phone and told her to hold the phone and listen so the cops could get to the room at Norris Hall and try to save people. He faked being dead in the room. Every time Cho would come near him, he told me he'd lay very still, motionless, because he was figuring he was getting shot again.
Huh.
And he was the last person alive who was shot next to Cho. He said Cho's foot came right up to his head, and he said he saw it, but he didn't move, and he never made eye contact. And then Cho committed suicide. So the kid is very poised. Even under fire, he was very poised. I mean, he's an ex-ROTC kid. He's had gun training. He is a unique young man. Therein lies your question. You don't jerk him around. He's not an actor. He doesn't want to be an actor. You're not going to start to juice him and ask him questions, hoping that a tear is going to come down from his eye. Not happening. We had a unique scene where he watched Cho on his computer, on his Mac, for the first time. I had to asked Colin about that. What I mean by gaining trust with an actor or a real person, it's the same. If you don't have a responsibility, you have a responsibility, I think, as the director to make sure that they know you've done your homework and you're not there to hustle them for your own good. I was interested in Colin. So I had watched Cho and I said, Colin, what'd you think of that? He wouldn't talk about it. Much the same like one time I said, have you ever touched any guns? He said, I don't want to talk about guns when I first met him. But slowly I said, Colin, it's a story about guns, and unfortunately Cho's a major part of your story. And he said, you're right, he is. I just at first didn't even mention Cho's name. He didn't use Cho's name. He called him the shooter. And I said, well, what about Cho? And Colin was reticent. And he told me subsequently that they didn't use Cho's name. They didn't want to acknowledge Cho. A little heavy, I thought. Yeah. I'm not going to tell the guy that's been shot 5 times by somebody what to do. Right. It's a learning experience for me also. God, you look at him, he's such a handsome kid, and you go, my God, this is sick. He tells me his leg's killing him. I'll be honest with the audience. He told me his back of his leg up into his ass is killing him because he's got shrapnel there.
Jeez, wow.
From the bullet. And he needed surgery about 3 weeks ago, a month ago, to repair that. He's walking around with metal all in his body. I think he has a special card at the airport. But anyway, but back to Cho. So Colin decided to watch Cho, much like we're having this conversation. Mm-hmm. Turns on the Mac. He starts watching that diatribe that Cho sent to NBC on television saying, I will kill everybody in blood and you deserve it and your hedonism and your Mercedes. Colin's a young guy with no money.
The guy was off. Yeah, he was off.
He's watching Cho, and Cho's talking about killing him because he's rich and has a Mercedes. And I watched Colin. And I always thought the key to the film might be a moment or two. When Cho's talking about rich and I hate you, I saw Colin's eyebrows lift because Colin didn't have a dime. And then another time he's saying, you hedonist, you lazy people. And I saw him looking at Cho, staring right at him, not moving, again, a blink of an eye. And he was watching a guy that shot him, who killed 32 people, 33 including himself. And all I could do, capture it, figuring maybe, somebody told me this one time, you never know, if you get a moment from somebody, maybe somebody else may learn from it. And I was thinking maybe somebody may learn from that. And some other kid, whether it's Virginia Tech, Columbine, the kid in Wisconsin 2 weeks ago who killed himself in front of the class, might not do that. And, Zini, back to you. You come out of Oakland, am I correct?
Yeah, and Chicago before that.
Chicago. They're 2 of the most violent cities in America. Unfortunately. Shoot 'em ups are insane.
Yeah.
So maybe he might, somewhere along the lines, just somebody else will say, we're aware of guns and it might not be so good. And maybe Colin's going to help out a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Hey, when you in filming the movie, what was in the clips that I've seen, what is interesting to me as a video blogger with a bunch of different types of cameras.
Yes.
What kind of cameras did you use to capture the hidden camera of the guy saying, well, this is $400, and how did you do that? Just curious.